A Karen on the bus thinks she can push me out of my designated seating for people with mobility needs. She tries to physically force me out, but the other passengers and the bus driver step in to help. Here's what happened. It was just another typical Monday morning on the bus. I, a 25-year-old disabled man who uses a wheelchair, was heading to work as usual. I boarded the bus and made my way to the designated accessible seating, which was always reserved for those with mobility needs. I always make sure to arrive early so that I can secure a seat in the designated area before the bus gets too crowded. As I was sitting there minding my own business, I suddenly heard a woman's voice behind me. "Excuse me, sir, can you please move from that seat?" the woman asked in an impatient tone. I turned around to see who was speaking to me and was met with the glare of a middle-aged woman who appeared to be in her late 40s. I'll call her Karen. "I'm sorry, but the seat is designated for people with mobility needs," I replied calmly. "Well, I need to sit there. My leg is hurt," Karen retorted. I was taken aback by her response. I never encountered someone who was so entitled and willing to ignore the needs of others. I decided to stand my ground and politely explain the situation to her. "I understand your leg may be hurt, but the seat is necessary for me to use my wheelchair," I explained. "I don't care about your wheelchair. Move," Karen responded. I was shocked by her lack of empathy and the way she was speaking to me. I decided to stay put, but Karen was not having it. She reached out to grab my wheelchair and tried to physically force me out of the seat. "Hey, what are you doing?" I shouted, trying to push her away. Other passengers on the bus started to take notice of what was going on. Some tried to intervene, telling Karen to back off, but she refused to listen. "Help! Help! This man is stealing from me!" Karen screamed, completely losing control. I was completely taken aback by Karen's behavior. As she screamed for help, I could feel the eyes of all the other passengers on the bus turning towards us. I tried to explain the situation, but Karen was having none of it. She continued to shout, making herself seem like the victim and accusing me of stealing from her. At this point, the bus driver had had enough. He pulled over to the side of the road and called the police. Karen's screams grew louder, and she became even more aggressive, trying to physically force me out of my seat. I was starting to feel overwhelmed, but thankfully, several other passengers stepped in to try and calm her down. As the police arrived, Karen's demeanor changed dramatically. She tried to play the victim, telling the officers that I had been harassing her and that she was afraid for her safety. The officers listened patiently, but I could tell that they could see through her act. They asked me for my side of the story, and I explained the situation, showing them the accessible seating sticker on my wheelchair. The police quickly determined that Karen was in the wrong, and they arrested her for disorderly conduct. I was given a safe space to wait until we reached my destination, and I was so grateful for the support of the bus driver and the other passengers. I decided to file a complaint with the bus company about the incident, hoping that it would lead to better training for employees and a clearer policy for dealing with situations like this in the future. I couldn't let Karen's entitled behavior go unchallenged, and I wanted to make sure that other people in my position wouldn't have to go through the same thing. After the incident on the bus, I was still in shock from the way Karen had treated me. I knew that I couldn't let her entitled behavior go unchallenged, so I decided to take legal action against her. I filed a complaint with the police and also filed a civil lawsuit against Karen for assault and battery, as she had physically tried to force me out of my seat. As the legal battle began, I was hit with a barrage of emotions. I was anxious, frustrated, and felt a sense of vulnerability, but I was determined to see this through, not just for myself, but for the disabled community as a whole. I wanted to make a stand and show that disabled people's rights should not be disregarded. Karen, however, had changed her story. In court, she presented herself as a victim who had been wronged by me. She claimed that I had been aggressive towards her and that she was only trying to defend herself. Her lawyer painted a picture of her as a helpless woman who was attacked by a disabled man on the bus. I was taken aback by the false narrative that was being presented in court. I knew that I had to fight back and prove the truth. I hired a lawyer who specialized in disability rights, and we worked together to gather evidence and witness testimony that supported my side of the story. The legal process was long and arduous. It was emotionally draining to relive the traumatic events of that day in court and to have my character and reputation questioned, but I was determined to see it through. Throughout the legal process, Karen's story continued to change. At first, she tried to paint herself as the victim, claiming that I was the one who had been aggressive and had tried to steal her seat. But as the case progressed, her story became more and more inconsistent. One day, during a cross-examination, a witness came forward who had been on the bus that day. They testified that they had seen Karen try to force me out of the seat and that she had been the one who was screaming and causing a disturbance. This testimony was a turning point in the case and helped to discredit Karen's story. Furthermore, the bus company was able to provide footage from the security cameras on the bus, which clearly showed Karen's aggressive behavior towards me. The evidence was overwhelming, and it was clear that Karen had lied about what happened on the bus. With the evidence stacked against her, Karen's case began to crumble. The judge ultimately ruled in my favor, finding that Karen had acted in a manner that was discriminatory towards me because of my disability. I was awarded a substantial settlement, which I used to help advocate for the rights of disabled individuals and to raise awareness about the importance of accessible public transportation. The legal battle may have been over, but my fight for justice and equality continued. I used my voice to tell my story and to help bring attention to the issue of accessible public transportation. It was a long and difficult journey, but it was worth it to make a difference and to show that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their abilities. You've had a lot of experience with discrimination, which is something I can definitely relate to. It's not fair that people judge others for their disabilities, especially when those disabilities are invisible. I think you did the right thing by standing up for yourself. You should never let anyone else make you feel like less of a person because of your disability. That's exactly what Karen was doing on the bus, and she was wrong for doing it. You didn't do anything wrong. A Karen from my own family tried to manipulate me into splitting a job referral bonus. When I declined, she insulted me and threatened to have me banned from future family gatherings. Here's what happened. I, 36 female, have never been good at keeping most people around. I basically disowned my physically and emotionally abusive egg donor at the age of 10. I did the same with my neglectful drunk of a father when I was 14. I've had symptoms of social anxiety disorder since I was 3 or 4. I just don't really know how to connect with most people. My empathy levels are off the scale, however, especially when I do connect with someone or any animal/wildlife. I know now that some people find my kindness and sincerity to be off-putting. People have been so horrible to me, and I see so much horrible treatment throughout the world that I always give a compliment when one pops into my head, and I work hard to be the queen of gift-giving. It is understandable that this can scare some people, since I believe the only true monsters in this world are humans. There are most likely a lot of humans that have play-acted kindness and been looking to manipulate or do harm. I am not like that. I go into overdrive trying to help the people I care about when they tell me they are in a bad situation or are unhappy. A few years ago, before COVID, during Thanksgiving, my cousin, female, mid-20s at the time, let's call her Tony, was constantly complaining about how much she hated working as a caregiver, how little money she made, and how financially strapped she was. My family is mostly on the poverty scale. I think I only just barely broke out of that in the last 3 years, while my DH and I are still not in the best financial situation in the world. It is better than poverty. Anyways, I was working at a credit union at the time, and I offered to put my name down as her referral, as she wanted to put her application in. The position was making over $4 more per hour than she was at her current position, and it came with a $500 sign-on bonus. I also took all honor roll and college credit English courses in high school, and my writing skills are superb. So, I regularly offer to help my friends and loved ones with their resumes, for free, whenever they are applying for a good job. I offered the same to Tony as we were discussing her applying to the credit union. I advised that I don't split referral bonuses, but that if she stayed long enough for me to get one, I would be happy to take her out to dinner. The referral bonus would have been $500, the same amount as the sign-on bonus. She seemed fine with it throughout dinner and even seemed excited by the prospect of getting a different position. A few nights later, Tony texted me, asking if I would be willing to split a referral bonus with her. I advised, once again, that I don't split referral bonuses because we need the money too much. I also reiterated that I would be happy to take her to dinner if I got a referral bonus from her staying the required 90-day period. I just started driving when I got a response, and I pulled over to read it. I was flooded with absolute fury when I read her text. "You're a selfish bitch, just like your mother." My entire family knows about me being abused as a child, and as much as I have tried Tony's whole lifetime to be a kind and good role model whenever I was around her, whenever she didn't get the response she was looking for from me, she would then go and use my hatred of my egg donor to try to hurt me by saying I am just like her and all the other horribleness. I told her then and there to lose my number because I will never be willing to try to help her with anything ever again. She texted me again and said that she and her mother would be getting me banned from future Thanksgiving dinners because of this. I reached out to my aunt, Tony's mother, let's call her TJ, and told her that I loved her, but I needed to know if she was part of that threat. She told me that she was, that I was selfish, didn't know how to treat family, and that I should grow up. So, I decided to stop letting her walk all over me and treat me like shit every time her daughter has a temper tantrum, and torch that bridge by telling her that she could go fuck herself in a fire. I went into work the next day and informed my boss that I would like my name removed as a referral for Tony, and I did not want her application associated with me in any manner. My coworkers in management were astounded when they asked for the story. They stated, "We specifically provide a $500 sign-on bonus so that new hires won't ask for your $500 referral bonus. Why does she need your bonus too?" The next year at Thanksgiving, my DH and I were fighting to get our car unstuck from the snow. Tony and my boyfriend came out to my aunt's, Sam's porch, and laughed and jeered at us the entire time. My sister was pissed off when she found out. She said I should have interrupted her dinner to get her help. Neither my sister nor I speak to either this cousin or aunt anymore. However, Tony had apparently created a fake Facebook account of one of my old friends and found a message where I had told this guy who was bitching at me about my politics on a post that was explaining how Bob Cratchit from A Christmas Carol would actually have made more for that time frame than Americans getting paid minimum wage in today's world. I told him, I have an aunt who taught me to be feminist, taught me true empathy for animals, and then one day she became a conservative. She told me how she shouldn't have to pay taxes for children to go to public school, even though she went to public school, because she never had any children. I'm honestly sick and tired of trying to explain to conservatives why they should care about other people. Tony sent a screenshot of that to Sam, and despite all the birthdays I had shown up out of the blue to be close to her, to give her wonderful gifts, or to leave cute and loving chalk art on her driveway, well, into adulthood, she told me to have the decency to leave her alone and wouldn't hear or read my apology for hurting her feelings. In all honesty, I didn't apologize for what I said, and I never will. I still believe and agree with my words from that post. However, I wish I could be honest with her about how shitty her politics are to the person she taught to always care about others, especially animals and bugs. It hurts that she now supports a party that wants to punish me for my religion and my sexuality, that she became a chumper, and that she was willing to cut me out of her life so easily, without any discussion. It also truly sucks that she is willing to continue to support that party despite how hard they made my grandparents' lives when it came to going to Canada for their life-saving medications. My grandma raised me from the age of 14 on, and she was absolutely my adored savior. Nowadays, I have my sister, my DH and his family. They are fucking amazing and so very loving. My best friend, and a few close coworkers in my life. Tony succeeded at getting me kicked out of Thanksgiving dinners, but I stand by my words and actions. There's a good chance that the world will think I'm an asshole for all this. However, that is what everyone told me when I left my egg donor's abusive household. That is what they told me when I moved out of my father's. My grandma was also verbally harassed by my entire family for taking me in. They thought I was a privileged little bitch just trying to get out doing chores, even though they themselves called DCFS on my egg donor for her abuse, parentification of me, and treating me like her own personal slave maid. My grandma warned me during high school that TJ was not my and I shouldn't fool myself, presumably because of all the horrible things she said about me, behind my back, to my grandma. I know my grandma was just trying to protect a broken child from even more harm, and I wish I'd been smart enough to listen to her at the time. But yeah, I used to always wonder if anybody could ever love me, since the people who were supposed to love me most, my parents, obviously didn't. It took so very long for my DH to break through that persistent thought process of mine and teach me that I didn't have to continue to allow people like TJ to treat me so badly because I didn't realize that I don't deserve to be treated like crap all the time by so-called family. I'm amazingly lucky when it comes to the people I do have in my life. Quality over quantity, I guess. I'm not very good at keeping most people around, and I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, but for this story, I stand completely by my behavior. My life is better and less stressful without toxic family members that constantly either treat me badly or make passive-aggressive remarks about how I've lived my life and disowning my parents. If you have a toxic family that makes you feel bad no matter how nice or good you are, try to think that you are worthy of better and strive for a different environment. This life has continually shown me that if you are depressed and you wonder if the world would be better without you, trust me, cut off the people whose words constantly hurt you, those who believe you are worthless, and change your environment. I know life is not always kind, and that may not always be an option, but definitely try. A content life is so much better than a life where you constantly want to end your existence because toxic people have convinced you that you are worthless. They are wrong. Be kind to your lifelong friend in the mirror. Look your friend in the eyes when you look in the mirror, and say kind things in your mind. It has taken a long time, but I will attain self-love, and I recommend it for all. Have a lovely day. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I don't think it's wrong to make mistakes, and I also don't think it's wrong to change your mind about certain things. If anything, I respect you for being able to grow up and see the errors in your ways. It must have been a really tough time for you growing up with all of this going on, but I'm glad you were able to get out of there and be successful. Keep doing what makes you happy. A Karen confronts me during the biggest sale of the year at the store I work in, demanding I adjust the price of an item even though it was clearly marked as 50% off, not 75% off. She made a scene and held up the line until I agreed to her demands. Here's what happened. I was working yesterday, the day after Christmas, which I wouldn't normally be bothered about, but it was the first day of the giant sale going on in the store I work in. And I mean giant. Items for $3.95 instead of upwards of $15. Items 50% off and 75% off. Big. It only happens twice a year, so people tend to go crazy when this happens. The store was insanely busy, and we had too many people call out to monitor customers. So when our store should have only held 40 people, there were probably around 60 to 70 customers at any given point. So, I was asked to hop on register to help control the line, as I'm usually pretty quick about getting through people and have become a master at the whole customer service voice and sucking up to people. Well, as usual, I log into the POS system and call out, "I can help whoever's next." This older lady comes up to the counter and places her basket on it. I reach out my hand to grab the first product in it when this other lady, we'll call her Karen, snatches the basket away and literally shoved it back at the first lady and waved her back to the line. This is roughly what was said. I can't remember everything, but it was memorable enough. Karen, "Excuse me, I was next." Did she call you by name? I didn't hear her say your name, which means I was next. Yeah, that's right. Get back in line because she didn't call your name. I was next. I have places to be. I have an appointment soon. I already dreaded this transaction. I've been working retail long enough to know exactly who is going to be an easy customer and who is not. My manager, C, who was working the POS system next to me, exchanged a look. Putting on my best, I'm being nice because I had to be smile, I greet her. Me. Hello, did you find everything okay today? Karen doesn't answer me and literally just stares at me. She doesn't have a basket and isn't holding anything. I look around the counter in front of me to see if she had already placed something down and I missed it. I didn't. Karen pointed to the other end of the counter, made some kind of impatient gesture to my coworker, and tapped her foot until her 2 baskets were hurriedly slid over to me. I was already done with her, so I was scanning everything as quickly as possible, just dropping her things in her bag instead of neatly placing them in like I usually do. Karen was glaring daggers at the pin pad in front of her as I was ringing everything up. I just assumed that she finally realized just how much she was buying. Oh, boy was I wrong. I told Karen her total, around $80 if I remember correctly. Not bad for our store, considering what she had would usually cost around $150 to $200. She points to something on the pin pad and snaps at me. Karen, why is this one $8.25? It should be 75% off. I double-checked the item. Maybe it rang up wrong. It's not unusual for this to happen, especially with how many deals we run at once. But it is, in fact, a 50% off item, not 75% off. I tell her that. Karen, no, I got all my things from the 75% off tower. It's supposed to be 75% off. Me. Miss, I understand that, but somebody must have put this back in the wrong place. It's a bit confusing because this collection is split between the 50% off and 75% off towers. Half of it is on one side, the other half on the other. Another customer must have forgotten which tower they got it from and put it back on the wrong one. I promise what it's ringing up as is the correct price. Karen, no, I got it from the right half of the store, not the left. That means it's 75% off. Either adjust the price or I don't want it. I put it in the basket we had behind the counter for unwanted items. Clearly, Karen doesn't understand how barcodes work, and I don't have the authority to price adjust something like that. And I'm not going to keep arguing with her on this. This happens for another 2 products from the same collection. Me explaining that half are 50% off and half are 75% off. She's getting more and more annoyed. And then we get to the full price items. She is fuming by then. I tried to explain that because she got these from off the wall and not on a tower somewhere on the floor, that means they're full price, but part of the buy 3 get 1 free deal. She isn't having it. Karen, but it's your big sale. It should be at least 50% off. Mind you, she hasn't even bought anything 50% off yet. Only the 75% off or the $3.95 items. I thought these would be $3.95. Me, no miss, only the products on the first table are $3.95. You got these ones from off the wall in the second room. The second room doesn't even have any deals right now. And then she said it. Karen, where's your manager? I want to speak to a manager. I raise an eyebrow and point directly next to me where C has been listening this entire time. She's gone through 6 customers by now and is also getting annoyed just by listening to Karen. C finishes up with her transaction and turns to me and Karen. Karen, these aren't ringing up correctly. I got everything off the 75% off table. Once again, C says everything that I already did. Someone must have put it back wrong. It was off the wall, blah, blah, blah. Karen is now arguing with her. Karen, I know where I got everything. C, I was just up there a few minutes ago putting this product out. Like I explained and how like Hyperbird explained, this collection is split between the 2 towers. C then proceeds to list off exactly which parts of the collection are on the 50% off table and which are on the 75% off table. Something that I wasn't quite sure about, so I never mentioned to Karen. Karen, fine, if it isn't 75% off or $3.95, I don't want it. Take it off. So I do. I take off everything that isn't what she wants, take the products out of her bag and put them behind me. I tell her the new total, around $35, and ask if she's paying with cash or card. Her eyes narrow. Oh no, she isn't done yet. Karen, are those green ones still there? I check her bag, no green product. I turn around and look through the unwanted basket, pulling out a few teal items. Me, these ones? Karen, yes, I actually want those. Green is my favorite color. First of all, these items are body products, you know. Something you smell. It doesn't really matter what color they are as long as you like what it smells like. I have a really bad feeling that in an hour or 2, I'm going to have her back in my line complaining about wanting a refund. Second of all, these are the full price items. I really don't want to have to go through this whole thing again. Me, miss, are you sure this collection is full price? The ones off the wall. Karen, yes, I like green. I'll get those too. So I ring them up and tell her the total. Again. Me, $60 something. Cash or card. She pays with card, and while she's waiting for it to load, she grabs the bag from behind the counter and lifts it up. It's important to note that because she originally had so much product at first, I was handed a large bag, double bagged, with a board in the bottom for extra support so it wouldn't rip as easily. And even though there's a giant sale right now, we never seem to run out of large bags. Karen, of course, noticed this little detail. Karen, can I have an extra bag? I'm a bit distracted with the long receipt printing out, and tell her not to worry, it's double bagged. Everything should be fine and she didn't buy any glass. Karen, no, a small bag. Me, oh, the cellophane bags? Sure, but just to let you know, we only have the skinny cello bags, not the large cello bags. I can give you a big stack of them though if you want. Karen, no, a small bag. I look up and see her pointing at the bag she's holding. Oh, she wanted a paper store bag. Why? They're so ugly and that's what the cellophane is for, especially for gift wrapping. I look over to C for help because I don't have any small bags at my station right now, and neither does she. C shakes her head and mutters to me that we don't have enough to do that day. Me, sorry miss, we can't do that today. We are already running low on bags as it is. Karen, okay, then I'll just give you back this extra one that I already have. Me, that's a double bag large for support. If you have just one, your bag may rip and spill everywhere. Karen, I'll give you the large bag for the small bag. I want a small bag. Me, I can't do that today. Karen, look, there's already one used behind you. I'll just take that one. I look behind me to see what bag she's talking about. She's right. There's an open and used bag on the counter. Open and used and not put away because someone's product exploded on the inside. I send a please help me look to C, who rolled her eyes, grabbed the used bag, and practically shoved it towards Karen. Karen, thanks. God, that's all I wanted. Have a blessed one. The second she was out of earshot, C turned to me and congratulated me on keeping my cool. If I didn't desperately need the money, I would have 100% risked my job to scream and cuss her out. I lived in fear for the rest of my shift that she would come back and I'd have to put up with her all over again. I can't believe that happened to you. That's so terrible. But I'm glad you were able to keep your cool and not get fired. I know it must have been hard for you, but I'm proud of how you handled the situation. You are a true hero. If you enjoyed these videos, check out this other video on your screen right now, where a Karen teacher mistakes an inhaler for a vape and confiscates it. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.